Is it worth working for BOXT? Well, today we're in Somerset working on this property, installing a new aircon system. Keep watching and we'll explain to you exactly what the running costs are, what it's cost us to come up here as far as Somerset, and is it actually worth it as a business to do work for BOXT. Indoor unit is going in the bedroom upstairs, so we've got to get the ladders up, run pipe up the wall, through the wall, outdoor unit here.
So let's get started. Start by emptying the vans and getting all of our equipment out. Unboxing the AC units. As you can see here, we have protected all of the customer's carpet using roll and stroll. Now Bosch have recently brought out the 3200 indoor units, and what I didn't realize at the time was that they now give a template for you to be able to mark the bracket and where you need to drill the hole through the wall. As you can see here, me and Harry are just offering up the indoor units just to see exactly where it's going to fit. Now we've made a little bit of a boo-boo here. As you can see, we've purchased a new dust extraction system, but unfortunately one of us forgot to put a Hoover bag inside the Hoover. Oh dear. We now take the indoor unit outside and begin ready to prepare it. Pulled out the tool chest with the aircon tools inside, and next I am going to measure the drop from where the indoor unit is going to go down to the outdoor unit, so I will know how much of the microbore pipe I'm going to need to cut off the coil, ready to prepare and add on to the indoor unit. Now, as you'll see here, microbore pipe, especially the refrigeration pipe, is super malleable, so you're able to just roll it out of the coil. The air conditioning tools that we've purchased, the machines, the cutters, flare tool, all that sort of stuff, has set the business back approximately about £3,500. Hopefully it will be an investment worthwhile. And as you can see here, then we are just going to cut this rollout that we've done now, measured about 6 meters in total, and then I will eventually take that over and get it brazed onto the indoor unit. As you can see here, I'm taping up the ends of the pipe simply because it'll stop any moisture or dirt going into the pipe. I've developed my own little way of preparing these units. I start by, like I said, measuring out the distance that the pipes and cable is going to need to travel. Measure that out then, and cut the cable and copper pipes, etc., and just feed them through. Get the unit wired up prior to actually installing it. Now on these Bosch units, one thing to be aware of, if you're only wiring a single unit to one outdoor unit, then you're going to need a 5-core cable, HP07. If you are wiring a multi-split, so multiple indoor units to one outdoor unit, then you're going to need to use 4-core cable, again HP07. Sheathing the outer casing of the cable is a little bit tricky because it's quite elasticy, so it's quite hard to get it off without sort of cutting deep into the actual cables themselves. So just if you're ever going to use this type of cable, just be mindful to just go slow, do a little bit at a time to make sure that you're not going through and piercing the inner cables. So on this particular job of BOXT, they always do factor in getting electricians to come out and do the wiring. However, something to be aware of, that doesn't mean to say that they're going to wire from the outdoor unit to the indoor unit. They only do the wiring from the fuse board to the main isolator to the outdoor unit. So, in fact, there is an element of wiring still to do for BOXT. To be fair, this install through BOXT didn't turn out to be too bad. It was actually quite a nice install to do. There wasn't any problems. Everything went completely straightforward, which was nice. Now I do know that there would be times, like anything in trades, that things don't particularly go according to plan, which is why making sure that you have decent profit margins is really important. Can you make decent profit margins working for BOXT? That we will find out later on. Okay, so here we are cutting off the ends of the copper tails to the indoor unit. Then going to just burr out the inners of the pipe, and here you can see I've then expanded 2 pieces of pipe from the coil that I've cut, and that will then be put onto the tails, and I'll do a bit of brazing here to get the connections all connected up. Now the difference between brazing and soldering is that with brazing the temperatures are a lot higher, so my normal map gas lamp there is able to do this microbore size pipe for brazing. However, if the size was to start going any higher, we'd need to then introduce oxygen to make the flame burn even hotter. I know exactly what people are going to be saying here. We're standing all over the customer's furniture and sitting on it and everything. But the customer did say before he'd left us to it, he said, look, this unit is really sturdy, and if you want to stand on it, or you know, whatever, it's strong enough to hold our weight. You know, we did suggest to the customer that it would need to be moved out of the way, but he said it was too big, too heavy, and that we could just carry on. So that's exactly what we did, and here you can see Harry has now mounted the indoor unit to the wall inside. The pipes have been brought out, and we're now just going to start concentrating on drilling the trunk in to the wall to house the pipes. Now you might notice here that Harry is climbing up the ladder very gingerly, and that is simply because he is scared of heights. So as you can see, he's climbing up very tentatively up the ladder. It all got a little bit too much for Harry up on those ladders, so I decided to take over and start drilling the trunk into the wall, just allowing him to hand me any tools I needed, I guess, up and down the ladder. But yeah, I mean, so far this job is going really well. I think in total, the total install, I would say, probably took us about 4 hours, if that. I mean, we were near enough done by midday. So when we drill the trunk in, we use special clips that are fixed with the screw in the trunk in. It then allows us to pass cable ties through to secure the pipes, cable and condense pipe nicely inside the trunk in. You will have just seen there I was making some flare connections to get us onto the outdoor unit. And next, we're just going to put together the manifold made by Field Piece. Really nice piece of kit. Did take me a little bit of getting used to. However, it is really good kit. So we're just going to do a nitrogen test now, do a strength test on the system to make sure that it's all sound.
Okay, so the time is now nearly 12:30 and we are, I would say, 85% complete on this aircon install. What we still have left right now, we've got the system on test with nitrogen, so that'll be on test. Then once that's done, we'll clear that out, we'll do an evacuation of the system, and then we'll allow the refrigeration to go into the system. We'll then start turning it on and testing it all. So as it goes at the moment, yes, we're on for good time with it being a BOXT install. However, is it still really worth it? I don't know. Keep watching, and later on we'll do some calculations and run through the costs.
Oh look, we even had time for a spot of lunch. To it, and as you can see, work calls as usual. It never stops. Even when you're doing installs, you still end up having to take phone calls to some potential customers. Now that's nearly us finished, just adding the refrigerant into the system before I start doing my checks and tests.
Okay, there we are. So 4:20 and we are off on our way. Again, so I don't think I would do another install for BOXT, certainly not in Bristol. Maybe if it's more local to us, then fine. But the issue that I've got at the minute now is, so you get to the end of the job, you hit the button complete job. You've then got to answer lots of questions. One of the silly questions on that as well with aircon is the app thinks that it's a boiler, so it asks for like an earth impedance test, which they send an electrician out to do the electrical part, so you can't even do that. So you submit a load of photos that they ask for, hoping that they will be sufficient. So if I get any kickbacks now, if they say this photo isn't sufficient or whatever, I've got to technically drive all the way back to Somerset to take a photo of what they might ask for. Not to mention, if there's like a slight issue, I mean, we've tested it, it's all running, it's all working absolutely fine, but it's just, I just don't think for what they're paying is going to be worth it. Of course, come the end of this video, I will run through exactly the numbers and whether it is worth it. It may be worth it for some people who may have different overheads to us, but we'll get right into that at the end of the video. Right then, let's break it down. Is it actually worth working for BOXT as a subcontractor? For this particular job, BOXT paid us £400 for the aircon installation. We travelled all the way to Somerset, and after a bit of back and forth, we did manage to get £20 fuel covered. But please bear in mind, there were 2 of us on the job and we took 2 vans. Now, let's be real with the numbers. Our break-even figure is £398.11. So when you crunch it all, we're literally just breaking even for this install. BOXT do reimburse you for your trunking, cable and condensate pipe, which you have to supply yourself, but what they don't cover is all the driving around to source those materials. That time adds up and no one is paying for it. So in our situation, it's not profitable unless one of us is out doing a BOXT install and the other is working on their own high value jobs just to balance it out. Because let's be honest, whether it's an aircon install or a combi swap, if you're doing it properly, you're putting in a long hard shift. To be just breaking even at the end of that, it's not really sustainable. Now, I get that in some businesses with lower overheads or engineers just starting out, it might be worth it to help fill your diary, and that's why we did it. If you've been following our channel, you'll know we've had a few quiet periods lately, so we took this job on to keep the wheels turning. But since then, things have picked up again, and for us, BOXT will be more of a last resort. Hope that gives you some real insight. If you've had any experience working with BOXT, good or bad, drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear your take on it. And don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell icon for more real world trade talk on the front lines. Catch you on the next one.